Hello everyone, and welcome to a new series from MMAC, Take 10. We'll get to know business and community leaders who are playing a significant role in building the future of Milwaukee, our region, and the state of Wisconsin. We'll dig into their big picture perspective on the opportunities and the threats we face as a region.
I'm Chris Jenkins, MMAC's Director of Communications, and our guest today is Alexander Kempe, President and CEO of Novir. Alexander, welcome.
Thank you.
So to start off, tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your organization.
Sure. My name is Alexander Kempe. I'm the President and CEO of Novir. It is a diagnostic biotechnology company that's here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we're focused on early detection of infectious disease. Specifically, early on in the pandemic, I realized that testing was underserved. I spent about 20 years at GE Healthcare and thought about putting together a solution to serve that purpose, which is testing, and it wasn't really working back then, about a year ago. So I tapped a number of colleagues from GE Healthcare, looked for some talent here in Milwaukee out of direct supply, like Peter Klug, for example, and pulled a team together with a medical advisory board, international medical advisory board, and a partner in Sweden that really helped me set up Novir to help businesses and communities in Wisconsin and outside to do the COVID testing initially. We do other things as well, and so we recently were approved by the state and Department of Health as a vaccinator. So we really worked our way through on-site testing to now doing on-site clinics for vaccines, but we also developed a product and solution for remote testing that we're exploring across the US right now with camps, for example, and we'll be doing with schools. And that's supported by our technology platform that we developed, a platform that was developed thanks to feedback from our customers. So truly a grounds-up exercise to figure out what they needed and why when it came to testing, digitizing the process, to reporting it to state, which is very cumbersome, to eventually having a actual pass on the phone that shows whether I've been vaccinated, have I had COVID and had the antibodies, or when was the last time I tested the negative for antigen or PCR. So that's what we do. We work with customers in 6 verticals. We test thousands of individuals every week, and we continue to expand rapidly and serve the need of addressing COVID and the pandemic and really putting a curb to this.
Yeah, so you addressed a little bit of this already, but what do you think COVID mitigation measures are going to look like over the next few months?
It's interesting. We have very different views on this. So I'm going to give you our view, which is based on data, clinical studies. It's based on science. It's based on tapping a global network of healthcare experts that we have access to, including some of the East Coast doctors like Dr. Mina from Harvard, rapidtest.org. And essentially, and it aligns pretty well with Rochelle Walensky, who's now the head of CDC, which we admire as well. And essentially, I think what's going to happen here is that we're going to do really well on deploying vaccine. It's going tremendously well over a period of time, until the fall-ish, when hopefully we can get vaccine for children released by the large pharma companies. And we're going to continue to vaccinate through the end of the year. We may not get to immunity herd, unfortunately, and this year, probably early next year, simply because there is a great portion of people that may not get the chance to get vaccinated or may not want to get vaccinated, and we have this proliferation of variants that are happening, and the variants are throwing wrenches into the wheels. So I think it's important for people to understand that vaccine is not a silver bullet. It is an additional layer of safety that we put in place, and it works really effectively. So when you look at testing, I see testing actually increasing the second half of this year. We're going from a period of time where we did testing to curb the spread, if you wish, and identify, isolate. And we're moving to providing a safer setting. And in order to provide a safer setting and providing access to a safer setting, whether that is a workplace, a campus, or even the cities, restaurants, sports events, different places where crowds are cohorting, we're going to have to continue testing to provide that data for actionable insights in combination with who's been vaccinated. So I envision that what we're looking at here is methods of communicating that this setting that you're going into, whether it's a section of, let's say, Brewer Stadium, or whether it's a restaurant, or whether it's a hotel, and they will be able to demonstrate that that has applied additional layers of safety. That includes testing, it includes knowing who's vaccinated, and therefore we have a safer setting. I think this is going to be instrumental to kickstarting the economy, to helping us open up the doors in a smart way. And frankly, I think it's going to be a requirement. So the future really poses a combination of methods to still manage COVID, but the purpose is to open up the doors and open it up safely.
Sure, absolutely. So I was going to ask you, what's the biggest challenge we need to address in Milwaukee? Maybe consumer confidence, and building consumer confidence is among those challenges.
It absolutely is. And I think everybody is leery about what this all means and where it's going. And there are different views. I can't imagine a bigger challenge that we've been exposed to in 100 years in Milwaukee. And we want the city back. We want the vibrancy of city to be back. Large employers are not there. People are not in schools. There just isn't a lot of activity, more activity than perhaps other cities. But what we do there in bringing back the city to life is going to be everything. And I think in order for that to happen, we're going to bond together in public and private partnerships to help deliver on those layers of safety and aspects of education and awareness that our city inhabitants are requiring and need to see. And if we want large events like Summerfest and large sports events to happen at capacity, we have to be smart about it, and we have to support that to happen. And that really requires everybody to come together, the different constituents, which today, we have stakeholders and constituents like maybe Visit Milwaukee, Medical College, the city and the county. When they are conducting efforts to help that happen, I think we need an aggressive plan to bring the city back to life with a thoughtful plan and safety measures that allows us to do that successfully.
With all that in mind, what makes you optimistic about the future of Milwaukee?
Well, it's amazing. So I think the city has grown tremendously. The amount of investment that's going into real estate alone has been tremendous. The seeding of interest around startups and entrepreneurship that we've seen over the last 5 years has been tremendous, with Generator, with Startup Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee really is starting to compete in a big way with other large cities in Wisconsin and across the nation, frankly, with seeding that interest. It's exciting in Milwaukee now with what's going on with innovation, and there are, in this pandemic, of course, there's been some leaders in this that helped on a bigger level, like the UW systems led by Tommy Thompson and Scott Neitzel. It's been a tremendous accomplishment that drove some innovation as well, but, widespread helping out. Or the medical college, where Dr. Nate Lederboer was a big fan of applying these innovative products like rapid testing across the board and helping support those, like Dr. Mina is over on the East Coast. But then you have innovative companies like taking advantage of helping out during the pandemic in what they know how to do, like MeOpti, software for doctors and connecting them, or Pindell, which is a manufacturer led by Bill Berrien that helped out tremendously with parts for ventilator machines. I mentioned this in Milwaukee. I think they've been instrumental. American families stepped in and donated money. So I think that's very exciting and very, very optimistic. People, bound together from different parts of the economy, from different businesses, public and private. What we've seen so far has just been so exciting to see, and gives us a real opportunity to continue growing and be successful and making the city an attractive one and bringing it back to life.
All right. So if someone is from out of town and visiting Milwaukee, what's one thing they can't miss? Maybe with the caveat that we're imagining a time where more people are vaccinated and you have more of these rapid tests out. What's a thing people can't miss if they're visiting?
Sure. I mean, look, it's the easiest way to think about this is what we do when we're friends out of town. And by the way, I was born in Stockholm, so I'm a Swede in Milwaukee, and we're enjoying it greatly. So when our friends come over from out of town, from Europe or otherwise, there are three places we always take them that are unique, I think, to the city, represents the city from different facets. And that is the Milwaukee Art Museum, which is just a tremendous architectural piece on the skyline of Milwaukee. It's so beautiful, and it's got some amazing art in it. We take them to the Pfister Hotel. Obviously, it's a classic, especially if it's fall, to sit in the lounge in there and have something to nibble on at the bar or in that lounge area. And then we take them to St. Paul's Fish Market in the St. Paul's, which is in the public market, where you can have New England lobster for $15. So those are three places we take them.
That's great. So I was going to ask your favorite restaurant and what I should order when I go there, but maybe you've already named it.
Well, I think there's worth mentioning a couple here I'd like to highlight. One is Bartolotta. I mean, I am so impressed by how Paul Bartolotta has managed to bring back his restaurants in the face of this pandemic, and really being creative about reinventing himself with these region dinners. I've gone on a few of them, Lombardia, Venezia, and so forth. Their quality of food is amazing, but it's an experience. It's pushed him to create an experience at his restaurants that's very different from what they did before. And so I value those tremendously, and they are at Ristorante out in Tosa, and I think he's doing everything across the other restaurants. I know it's the other one, which is a staple item here in Milwaukee, is Carnivore. You got to have the steak tartare at Carnivore, and Omar runs a tremendous quality restaurant there. So those are two places I go to.
Those are some great selections right there. So what was your first job and what did you learn from it?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, back in Sweden, I went through a family, upbringing that was, you got to earn your own, and you're going to, demonstrate yourself. And so I worked during summers. So my first job was the summer job where I drove a pallet truck. So I would move pallets in a warehouse from one place to another. And I was young and cocky, and I thought I had a handle on this thing, this machine. And I was moving one pallet up to like the third level and pushing it in. And that created a ripple effect on the other side. So I went too far, and a whole sidewall of shelvings fell to the floor and crushed a bunch of products. It was a scary experience, but it taught me to be more thoughtful and really think through what you're doing and what you're learning from it, and be on the watch, for things that you may think is you got a handle on, but you really don't. You don't know enough. Always be cautious to listen and learn from anyone, actually, and not take it for granted.
Yeah, that's a great lesson to learn early on and one to remember long after that, I guess. I'm glad you turned out okay from that. So what's the last book you read or are reading right now, and what's a good takeaway from that book? Okay,
so that is Män som hatar kvinnor by Stieg Larsson, or The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Right.
It's a great book. I've read it before. I'm reading it again, and it is a way to fly away from reality and kind of tuck in and with a few hours that are left to just take advantage of that. It's an amazing trilogy that I recommend to anyone, that was written by a Swede.
Very good. So what's a show I should watch or stream online?
Well, I'm a big fan of Blacklist. If you're into criminal and investigative type of shows, the Blacklist is tremendous series that have a plot, that is so thought through on every episode. And my wife and I, we love watching that show together.
Very good. Do you have a favorite inspirational quote? And if so, what is it?
Yes, I do. It's Theodore Roosevelt's The Man in the Arena, and it's too long to go through, but essentially it comes down to, the credit belongs to those who are in the arena, whose face is marred by dust, sweat, and blood. I love that quote. Theodore Roosevelt put it so well. It's so easy to be a critic and a bystander. And I personally have faced a lot of naysayers in everything I've done and continue to do. And that tends to be the case when you're on the forefront of things and trying to drive and open new doors and innovation. And you just could remind yourself is that the credit belongs to the man in the arena.
Yeah, very good. And I think that quote takes on some new meaning in the age of social media, where there are few unexpressed opinions out there, right?
Yes.
Last question for you. What's one thing people might not know about you?
Well, I kind of gave it up a little bit earlier here. So the fact that I was born in Sweden, Stockholm, gives me an advantage. So I speak 5 languages. So I'm happy to converse in those with anybody that's interested. And it's been helpful, really, frankly, to understand people. And it's helping our business, obviously, expand into Europe, which is what we're doing right now as well.
That's great, Alexander. Thank you so much for your time today. For our audience, you can watch additional Take 10 episodes on MMAC's YouTube channel, in our email newsletter, and on our social media channels. Thanks, everybody, and have a great day.